The arrow pierced through Emma Carter's shoulder before she even heard the bowstring snap. Pain exploded white-hot through her body as she stumbled backward, crashing into the forest floor. Blood soaked through her hiking jacket, warm and wet, and her vision blurred at the edges. This was it. This was how she died, alone in the mountains, miles from civilization, killed by something she couldn't even see. Then she heard the growl. It started low, a vibration that seemed to shake the earth itself, building into a sound that made every primal instinct in Emma's body scream run. But she couldn't run. She could barely breathe. Through the haze of pain, she saw it emerge from the shadows between the trees, a massive wolf, easily the size of a small car, with fur as black as midnight and eyes that glowed an unnatural crimson red. Those eyes locked onto Emma, and for a heartbeat, the world went silent. The wolf's lips pulled back, revealing teeth that could tear her apart without effort. Emma's hand instinctively went to the arrow in her shoulder, and she knew with absolute certainty that she was about to die. But the wolf didn't attack. Instead, it turned its massive head towards something Emma couldn't see, something deeper in the forest, and released another bone-shaking growl. This one sounded different, protective almost, and definitely territorial. 3 figures stepped out of the tree line, humans, or at least they looked human, all carrying bows with arrows notched and ready. They wore black tactical gear and moved with the coordination of trained soldiers. The one in front, a man with silver streaks in his dark hair and a face carved from stone, raised his bow toward the wolf. "Stand down, beast," the man commanded, his voice cold and absolute. "You know the law. Humans are off limits. You've been seen." The wolf's growl intensified, its body lowering into a defensive crouch directly between Emma and the hunters. Emma's brain, fuzzy with pain and shock, tried to process what was happening. The wolf was protecting her from the people who'd shot her. "She's bleeding out, Alpha," one of the other hunters said, a woman with blonde hair pulled back in a severe ponytail. "She won't remember anything. Let us finish this." Alpha. They'd called the wolf Alpha. Emma's mind flashed to every werewolf movie she'd ever watched, every supernatural romance novel she'd secretly devoured during college, and she almost laughed. This couldn't be real. She was hallucinating from blood loss. That was the only explanation that made sense. The wolf, the Alpha, whatever it was, shifted its weight, and Emma heard something that sounded impossible. A voice, deep and rough and undeniably male, coming from the wolf's throat, but shaped into words. "Mine," the wolf said, and the word carried such absolute conviction that even the hunters took a step back. "She's mine. Touch her and die." "You can't claim a human," the silver-haired hunter said, but Emma heard uncertainty creeping into his voice. "The curse won't allow it. She'll destroy you. I don't care." The wolf's red eyes never left the hunters. "Leave. Now." If you've ever felt like fate threw you into the deep end without warning, stay with Emma's story, because she's about to discover that being chosen by the impossible comes with a price no one warned her about. This is a story about a human girl who became the most dangerous thing in the supernatural world simply by being seen. The hunters exchanged glances, some silent communication passing between them. Finally, the silver-haired man lowered his bow. "This is a mistake, Damien. The council will hear about this. They'll come for both of you. Let them come." The wolf's voice was pure steel. "Now get out of my territory before I forget the treaties and paint these trees with your blood." The hunters disappeared into the forest as silently as they'd appeared, and Emma was left alone with a massive wolf that had just claimed her as his, with a possessiveness that should have terrified her. Should have, but didn't, because Emma Carter had spent 26 years being invisible, and something about being seen, even by a creature that shouldn't exist, felt like finally being able to breathe. The wolf turned those crimson eyes back to her, and Emma watched in absolute shock as its form began to shift. Bones cracked and reformed, fur receded into skin. and within seconds, a man knelt where the wolf had been. He was huge, easily 6.5 feet tall, with broad shoulders and a muscular build that suggested raw power barely contained. His hair was black and wild, falling to his shoulders, and his face was all sharp angles and harsh lines, beautiful in a dangerous feral way. And he was completely naked. Emma's face burned despite the blood loss and pain. You're not wearing clothes. You're bleeding out, and that's what you're worried about." His voice was the same one that had come from the wolf, rough and deep, with an edge that suggested he wasn't used to gentleness. He moved toward her, and Emma instinctively tried to scoot backward, gasping as the movement sent fresh agony through her shoulder. "Don't," he said, his tone softening slightly. "I need to see the wound. I'm not going to hurt you." The giant wolf thing was pretty hurtful, Emma managed, her voice shaking. And the arrow also hurts. A lot. Something that might have been amusement flickered across his face. "That's shocking. You need to stay conscious. What's your name?" "Emma." "Emma Carter." She watched as he examined the arrow in her shoulder, his hands surprisingly gentle despite their size. "Are you going to tell me yours, or should I just keep thinking of you as the terrifying murder wolf?" "Damien Blackwood," he said, his jaw tightening. "And I need to remove this arrow. It's going to hurt." "More than it already hurts?" "Yes." He met her eyes, and Emma saw something in those red depths that looked almost like regret. "Much more. I'm sorry." Before Emma could process that apology, Damien snapped the arrow shaft and pulled it through her shoulder in one smooth motion. Emma screamed, the sound tearing from her throat as white-hot agony consumed everything. She felt Damien's hands on her, heard him saying something, but the words were lost in the roar of pain that filled her head. Then everything went black. Emma woke to the smell of pine and wood smoke, and something else, something wild and masculine that she couldn't identify. Her shoulder throbbed with a dull, persistent ache, but the sharp, stabbing pain was gone. She was lying on something soft, wrapped in blankets that weren't hers, in a room she'd never seen before. Panic hit her like ice water. Emma sat up too fast, gasping as her shoulder protested, and took in her surroundings. She was in a bedroom, rustic and sparse, with log walls and a stone fireplace where flames crackled and danced. Her blood-soaked jacket and shirt were gone, replaced by an oversized flannel that definitely wasn't hers. Through a window, she could see dense forest and a sky painted in the oranges and purples of sunset. How long had she been unconscious? "You're awake." Damien's voice came from the doorway, and Emma's head whipped around to find him watching her. He'd put on clothes, thank God, dark jeans and a black Henley that somehow made him look even more dangerous than the nakedness had. "How's your shoulder?" "Better than it should be," Emma said carefully, touching the bandage she could feel through the flannel. "Where am I?" "My cabin, deep in Blackwood territory." "Blackwood territory," Emma repeated, her voice flat. "Right, because that's a normal thing to say." She swung her legs off the bed, testing her stability. "I need to leave. I need to get back to my car, to civilization, to anywhere that makes sense. Your car is 15 miles from here through a forest you'll never navigate alone." Damien stayed in the doorway, but Emma could feel the tension radiating from him, like a predator deciding whether to chase fleeing prey. "And you lost a lot of blood. You need rest." "I need answers." Emma stood, swaying slightly but forcing herself to remain upright. "What are you? What were those people? Why did they shoot me, and why did you call me yours?" The last word came out shaky, uncertain, because Emma wasn't sure she wanted to know the answer. Damien's jaw clenched, a muscle ticking beneath his skin. For a long moment, he didn't speak, and Emma watched something war behind those crimson eyes, conflict and resignation, and something that looked almost like pain. Finally, he stepped into the room, and Emma's instinct screamed at her to back away, but she held her ground. "I'm a werewolf," he said, the words blunt and unapologetic. "Alpha of the Blackwood Pack. Those people were hunters from the Council, the governing body that keeps our world hidden from humans. They shot you because you wandered into Pack territory during a hunt, and they were going to kill you to keep the secret." Emma's legs gave out. She sat back down on the bed, hard, her mind reeling. "Werewolves are real. Yes. And you're one. Yes. And those people were going to murder me for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Yes." Damien moved closer, his movements careful, controlled. "Emma, I need you to listen to me very carefully. What happened in those woods, what I said, changed everything, for both of us. You said I was yours." Emma's heart was hammering against her ribs. "What does that mean?" Damien crouched down so they were eye level, and Emma could see the weight of whatever he was about to say pressing down on him. "Werewolves have mates. It's not a choice, not something we control. It's instinct, recognition, a bond that forms between two souls. When I saw you lying there bleeding, when I caught your scent, my wolf knew. You're my mate, Emma Carter." The words hung in the air between them, impossible and terrifying, and somehow, inexplicably, feeling true in a way that made Emma's chest ache. She should laugh. She should call him crazy. She should demand that he take her home immediately. But instead, she heard herself ask, "What happens now?" Now everything gets complicated. Damien stood, pacing to the window, his broad shoulders tense. "There's something you need to know about me, about why the hunters said claiming you was a mistake. I'm cursed, Emma. Have been for 3 years." "Cursed how?" "I killed someone." His voice went flat, emotionless, in the way of someone reciting facts they've long since stopped feeling. "An alpha from a rival pack. He challenged me, and I won. But I didn't just win. I lost control. I tore him apart in front of both our packs. And his mate, a powerful witch, cursed me as he died." He turned to face her, and Emma saw the red glow intensify in his eyes. "Every full moon, I lose myself completely. I become a monster that can't distinguish friend from foe. I've killed 6 of my own pack members. Good wolves, loyal wolves, people who trusted me to protect them." Emma's throat tightened. "That's why your eyes are red. The curse mark, a reminder of what I am." Damien's hands clenched into fists. "And the curse comes with a prophecy. The witch said I'd find my true mate, a human, and that claiming her would either break the curse or destroy us both. Most of my pack thinks you're my death sentence walking." "Are you saying I might kill you?" Emma asked, incredulous. "I'm saying we're linked now, whether we want to be or not. The mate bond is already forming. I can feel it." He pressed a hand to his chest. "Right here, like a golden thread connecting us. And if the prophecy is true, you're either my salvation or my execution. If the idea of being someone's fated mate terrifies and thrills you in equal measure, then you understand exactly what Emma's feeling right now. Because she's about to make a choice that will change not just her life, but the fate of an entire pack. And the clock is ticking, because the full moon is in 3 days. Emma stood again, this time steadier, and crossed to where Damien stood by the window. Up close, she could see the exhaustion etched into his face, the weight of 3 years, carrying a curse that made him a danger to everyone he cared about. "I should be terrified of you," she said quietly. "Everything logical in my brain is screaming at me to run, but I'm not running. Why am I not running?" "The mate bond," Damien said, his voice rough. "It's already influencing you, making you feel safe with me, drawn to me. It's not real, Emma, not entirely. You need to understand that." "Don't." Emma's voice came out sharper than she intended. "Don't tell me what I'm feeling isn't real. I've spent my entire life having people dismiss my feelings, tell me I'm too sensitive, too emotional, too much. A giant werewolf claiming I'm his fated mate doesn't get to do the same thing. Something flickered in Damien's expression. Surprise, maybe, or respect. You're right, I'm sorry. But Emma, you need to know what you're getting into if you stay. The full moon is in 3 days. When it rises, I'll transform, and I won't be me anymore. I'll be a monster wearing my face, and if you're anywhere near me, I will kill you. Then we have 3 days to figure out how to break the curse, Emma said, with far more confidence than she felt. You said the witch's prophecy mentioned a human mate. Maybe that's the key. Maybe I'm supposed to help you. Or maybe you're supposed to die trying, Damien countered. But Emma could see hope warring with fear in his eyes. I can't let that happen. I won't. It's not just your choice. Emma stepped closer, close enough to feel the heat radiating from his body. You said we're linked. That makes this my decision too. And I'm choosing to stay. I'm choosing to help. Why? The question came out raw, desperate. You don't know me. You don't owe me anything. Why would you risk your life for a monster? Emma thought about her life back in Seattle, the lonely apartment, the dead-end job, the constant feeling of going through motions without purpose. She thought about how invisible she'd felt, how insignificant, how desperately she'd wanted something, anything, to make her feel alive. And then she looked at Damien, this powerful, dangerous man who'd protected her without hesitation, who'd claimed her as his in front of people who wanted her dead, who was begging her to save herself, even if it meant condemning him. Because someone should fight for you, Emma said simply. And because maybe, just maybe, fate doesn't make mistakes. Damien's control shattered. He reached for her, his hands cupping her face with a gentleness that contradicted his size, and Emma's breath caught as she saw the raw emotion blazing in those crimson eyes. You're either the bravest person I've ever met, he whispered, or the most foolish. Can't I be both? His laugh was broken, disbelieving. 3 days, Emma. We have 3 days to do what dozens of witches and healers have failed to do in 3 years. 3 days to break a curse cast in blood and grief and rage. Then we'd better get started. Emma covered his hands with her own, feeling the calluses, the strength, the faint tremor that suggested he was holding himself back from pulling her closer. Tell me everything. The curse, the prophecy, everything the witch said. There has to be a clue, something everyone else missed. Damien pulled back, and Emma felt the loss of his touch like cold water. He moved to a desk in the corner, pulling out a worn leather journal. I've documented everything, every full moon, every symptom, every word of the prophecy I can remember. The pack healer has tried everything, binding spells, suppression potions, and even reaching out to the witch herself. But she disappeared after cursing me. No one knows if she's alive or dead. Emma took the journal, flipping through pages of tight, controlled handwriting, interspersed with sketches, symbols, desperate notes in the margins. The Alpha's heart beats red with rage, she read aloud from one page. Only the heart that beats for him can still the beast within. A human heart, pure and untouched by the wild, must choose the monster freely, knowing the cost. She looked up. That's the prophecy? Part of it. Damien's voice was tight. There's more. On the 3rd night of the 3rd year, when the curse moon rises full and bright, the human mate must stand in the circle of binding and offer her blood willingly. If her heart is true, the curse breaks. If not, both mate and alpha die, and the curse passes to the entire pack. Emma's stomach dropped. The entire pack. If we fail, everyone gets cursed? 63 wolves, Damien said. Men, women, children. All of them would become what I become every full moon. The council would have no choice but to execute the entire pack. That's insane, Emma breathed, her hands shaking as she clutched the journal. That's emotional terrorism. The witch didn't just curse you. She set a trap that would destroy everyone you care about. She watched me kill her mate in front of her, Damien said quietly. She wanted me to suffer, wanted me to live with the knowledge that my existence endangers everyone I love. Most of the pack thinks I should have exiled myself years ago, gone rogue, died alone somewhere so they'd be safe. But you stayed. I'm their alpha. It's my job to protect them, even from myself. He moved to the fireplace, staring into the flames. Do you understand now why I can't let you do this? Why is the risk too high? If you fail, if your heart isn't true, whatever the hell that means, you die. And my entire pack dies with you. That's not a choice I can ask you to make. Emma set the journal down carefully, her mind racing. She'd been a research librarian before quitting 6 months ago, burned out and lost. She knew how to find patterns, how to dig through obscure sources, how to connect dots others missed. The prophecy says a human heart pure and untouched by the wild, she said slowly. What does untouched by the wild mean? Does it just mean human, or does it mean something more specific? Damien turned to face her, surprise flickering across his features. I don't know. Everyone assumed it meant someone who wasn't supernatural, who didn't have magic or wolf blood. But that's not necessarily what pure means in magical contexts. Emma started pacing, her librarian brain kicking into gear despite the impossibility of the situation. In most folklore, pure doesn't mean innocent or virginal. It means uncorrupted, unchanged, still in an original state. What if untouched by the wild means someone who hasn't been claimed by a wolf before? Someone whose heart hasn't been bound to the supernatural world yet? You're saying the curse requires a mate who's never been marked. Damien's eyes widened. Emma, that actually makes sense. The witch would have known about mate bonds, known that most wolves mark their mates, and create a permanent link. She'd want someone untainted by that. And I'm definitely untainted, Emma said with a hollow laugh. I've never even had a serious boyfriend, let alone been claimed by a magical werewolf. But what about the heart must be true part? How do we measure that? Before Damien could answer, a knock at the cabin door made them both freeze. Damien's entire body went rigid, his eyes flashing brighter red. Stay here, he ordered, moving toward the door with predatory grace. Like hell. Emma followed, ignoring his growl of warning. She wasn't going to hide while someone potentially dangerous stood outside. Damien threw open the door to reveal a woman, mid-30s, with auburn hair and sharp green eyes that immediately locked onto Emma with undisguised hostility. So it's true, the woman said, her voice cold. You actually brought a human here, to Pack lands, 3 days before the curse moon. Sienna. Damien's voice carried a clear warning. This isn't your concern. It's every Pack member's concern when their alpha decides to gamble all our lives on a prophecy that's already failed twice before. Sienna pushed past Damien into the cabin, circling Emma like a predator sizing up prey. Do you have any idea what you've done? What he's asking you to do? I know about the curse, Emma said, lifting her chin despite her racing heart. I know what happens if I fail. Do you? Sienna's laugh was bitter. Did he tell you about the other two? The other human women he found? The ones he thought might be his mate? Did he tell you what happened to them? Emma's blood went cold. She looked at Damien, whose face had gone carefully blank. What is she talking about? Damien didn't mention his track record? Sienna's smile was cruel. 3 years ago, right after the curse, he found a human woman hiking near the Packlands, convinced himself she was his mate. She agreed to help break the curse. When the full moon rose, and she stood in that binding circle, when she offered her blood, nothing happened. The curse didn't break, and Damien, in his cursed form, tore her apart in seconds. Emma's stomach lurched. "That's not Damien. Is that true?" "Yes." His voice was hollow. "Her name was Sarah Mitchell. She was brave and kind and willing to risk everything to help me. And I killed her." "And the second one?" Emma's voice came out barely above a whisper. "Rebecca Torres." A year later. Damien wouldn't meet her eyes. Same result. The curse didn't break and I killed her too. 2 women dead because I was desperate and selfish and convinced myself the prophecy would save us. And now you want me to be number 3? Emma backed away from both of them, her mind reeling. "You were going to let me volunteer for this, knowing 2 other women already died trying. If you've ever had someone hide the truth from you while asking you to trust them completely, then you know the betrayal Emma's feeling right now. And the worst part? She still feels the mate bond pulling her toward Damien, even as logic screams at her to run. Comment below. Would you stay or would you leave? Because Emma's about to make a choice that can't be unmade. "I wasn't going to let you do it," Damien said, finally meeting her gaze, and Emma saw raw anguish there. "That's why I told you to leave. Why I said the risk was too high. Because I've already killed 2 innocent women, Emma. I won't kill a third. Especially not you." "Why, especially me?" Emma demanded. "Because of some mystical mate bond that might not even be real? Because your wolf recognized me? That didn't save Sarah or Rebecca, did it?" "No." Damien's hands clenched into fists. "It didn't. Because they weren't really my mates. I was desperate and delusional, and I convinced myself they were what I needed them to be. But you, Emma, what I feel when I look at you, it's different. It's not desperation. It's recognition, like finding something I didn't know I'd lost." "That's beautiful poetry," Sienna interjected, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "But it won't matter when you're ripping her throat out in 3 days. Alpha, I'm begging you. Send her away. Lock yourself in the reinforced cell like you always do. Let the curse run its course. Stop gambling people's lives on prophecies and pretty words." "She's right," Emma said, and she hated how her voice shook. "Damien, she's right. 2 women have already died. Your entire pack is at risk. I should go. Then go." Damien's face could have been carved from stone. "I'll have one of the pack members drive you back to your car. You'll leave, go back to your life, and forget any of this happened." "You know I can't forget this," Emma said, tears burning behind her eyes. "You know the mate bond won't let me just walk away and be fine. The mate bond will fade if we don't complete it." Damien turned away from her. "Give it a few weeks. You'll go back to normal. You'll be safe. That's all that matters." Emma looked between Damien's rigid back and Sienna's hostile face, and something in her chest cracked open. She'd spent 26 years playing it safe, staying invisible, never taking risks, because risks meant possible failure and pain and rejection. And where had it gotten her? Alone, unfulfilled, so desperate for meaning that she'd quit her job and driven into the mountains hoping nature would somehow fix what was broken inside her. "No," Emma said. Damien turned, shock clear on his face. "What?" I said. "No, I'm not leaving." Emma moved closer to him, her heart hammering but her voice steady. "You said 2 women died because you were desperate and delusional, but you also said they weren't really your mates. What if the curse didn't break because they weren't the right ones? What if the prophecy is specific for a reason?" "Emma, you can't seriously be considering this," Sienna said, her hostility shifting to something closer to concern. "He just told you he killed 2 women trying this same thing." I heard him. Emma kept her eyes locked on Damien's. "But I also heard him say what he feels with me is different. And I feel it too. This pull, this connection. It's not just attraction or adrenaline or trauma bonding. It's something else, something real." "Real enough to die for?" Damien's voice was rough with emotion. "Real enough to risk everything on a maybe?" "Yes." Emma reached for his hands, feeling them tremble slightly as she laced her fingers through his. Because I've spent my whole life being afraid. Afraid of being too much, afraid of not being enough, afraid of taking up space, or asking for what I need. And I'm tired, Damien. I'm so tired of being afraid. You should be afraid of me, he said, but he didn't pull away. I'm a monster who's killed innocents. I'm cursed and dangerous, and I'm asking you to risk your life for a pack you don't even know. You're not asking, I'm offering. Emma squeezed his hands. And maybe that's the difference. Maybe Sarah and Rebecca died because you asked, because it was about your desperation and your need. But I'm choosing this freely, knowing exactly what it costs. The prophecy, Sienna breathed, her eyes widening, must choose the monster freely, knowing the cost. Emma, you just quoted the prophecy almost exactly. Damien's grip tightened on Emma's hands. Sienna, get the journal, now. Sienna grabbed the leather journal from where Emma had left it, flipping through pages with practiced speed. Here, on the third night of the third year, when the curse moon rises full and bright, the human mate must stand in the circle of binding and offer her blood willingly. If her heart is true and her choice made freely, knowing the full cost of failure, the curse breaks. If doubt clouds her heart or coercion guides her hand, both mate and alpha die. Coercion, Emma repeated. Did you ask Sarah and Rebecca to help you, or did they volunteer? Damien's face went pale. I asked, both times. I found them, told them about the mate bond, and asked if they'd be willing to try to break the curse. They both said yes, but I asked them. I essentially begged them. That's coercion, Emma said, her heart racing as the pieces clicked into place. Not legally, maybe, but magically. You're an alpha, a position of power. They were humans alone in supernatural territory. The mate bond would have been influencing them. Even if they wanted to help, their choice wasn't truly free, because you initiated it. You asked first. Which means the curse was designed specifically to prevent desperation from being the answer, Sienna said slowly, her hostility toward Emma visibly crumbling. The witch knew Damien would look for his mate, knew he'd ask for help. She built in a safeguard so that only someone who chose completely freely, without being asked, without pressure, could break it. That's why it has to be me. Emma's voice grew stronger. Because I'm choosing this before you asked. I'm volunteering while you're actively telling me to leave. There's no coercion, no pressure, just my free will deciding that you're worth saving. Damien pulled his hands free, turning away and bracing himself against the wall. Emma could see the tension in every line of his body, the war between hope and fear playing out in real time. And if you're wrong, he asked, his voice muffled, if this is just another desperate theory and you end up like Sarah and Rebecca, how do I live with that, Emma? How do I survive knowing I killed my actual mate? The same way I'd survive if I walked away and you died, or your pack got cursed because I was too afraid to try, Emma said quietly. We'd both live with the what-ifs. But at least this way, we tried. At least this way, I chose. Sienna closed the journal, her expression complicated. Alpha, I came here to convince you to send her away. I thought you were being reckless and selfish again. But if she's right about the coercion clause, if the prophecy specifically requires free choice initiated by the mate, then she might actually be the one who can break this. Or she might die, Damien said flatly. I might die crossing the street, Emma countered. I might have died from that arrow in the forest. I might die in 3 days trying to break your curse. But I'd rather die trying to save someone than live knowing I was too scared to even attempt it. Damien turned back to face her, and Emma saw tears tracking down his face, the first real crack in his controlled exterior. You're supposed to be terrified of me. You're supposed to run screaming. That's what smart humans do when they meet monsters. Good thing I never claimed to be smart. Emma crossed to him, reaching up to wipe the tears from his face with shaking hands. I'm just a former librarian who apparently has terrible taste in men, because I'm falling for a cursed werewolf I met 6 hours ago." His laugh was broken and disbelieving. "This is insane." "Completely," Emma agreed. "But I'm doing it anyway. So tell me what I need to do. Tell me how we prepare for the curse moon. Tell me everything, and let's break this thing." For a long moment, Damien just stared at her, and through the mate bond Emma was starting to actually feel. She sensed his emotions, the fear and hope and desperate, fragile belief that maybe, just maybe, this time would be different. Then he cupped her face in his large hands, his thumbs gentle against her cheeks. "You're the bravest person I've ever met," he whispered. "Or the most foolish," Emma echoed his earlier words. "Still can't decide which." "Both," Sienna interjected, a small smile finally appearing on her face. "Definitely both. If you're really doing this, Luna, then we need to prepare. The binding circle needs to be redrawn, the ritual components gathered, and you need to understand exactly what's going to happen when the moon rises." Luna. They were already calling her Luna. Emma swallowed hard against the surge of emotion. "Okay, tell me everything. We have 3 days. Let's use them." The next 72 hours passed in a blur of preparation and revelation. Sienna, who turned out to be the pack's second in command and a practicing witch herself, walked Emma through the ritual components. A circle drawn in blessed salt and mountain ash. Candles are placed at each cardinal direction. And in the center, a silver blade that Emma would use to cut her palm and offer her blood while speaking the words of breaking. "The moment you start the ritual, Damien will transform," Sienna explained as they stood in the clearing where the binding circle had been drawn. "The curse will fight against being broken. He'll be fully monster, no humanity, no recognition. If the curse breaks, he'll shift back immediately. If it doesn't, he kills me. And then you have to execute him before the curse spreads to the pack," Emma finished. "I know. You've told me approximately 47 times. I'm making sure you understand the stakes," Sienna said, her green eyes serious. "Emma, I believe you're the right mate. I believe your choice is truly free. But magic is unpredictable, and this curse was cast with tremendous power. There are no guarantees. I know." Emma looked at the circle, trying not to imagine herself standing in the center with a cursed wolf bearing down on her. But we're out of options and out of time. The moon rises in 6 hours. Over the past 3 days, Emma had spent every possible moment with Damien, learning about his pack, his history, the weight of leadership he'd carried since he was 23 years old. She'd met pack members, children who looked at their alpha with love and fear in equal measure, warriors who'd stood by him even as the curse made him dangerous, families who'd lost members to his cursed form but still believed in him. And she'd learned about Damien himself, the man beneath the alpha, beneath the curse. How he'd taken leadership after his father died in a rogue attack. How he'd spent years building alliances and strengthening his pack. The challenge that led to his curse had been over territory rights, and he'd lost control, not from malice, but from the rage of watching that rival alpha threaten pack cubs. "He's a good man," Emma had told Sienna the night before. "Cursed, dangerous, but good. That has to count for something." "Magic doesn't care about good or bad," Sienna had replied. "It cares about intention and will and sacrifice. Make sure you're ready for all 3. Now, standing in the clearing as the sun began to set, Emma felt the weight of that advice. She was wearing a simple white dress, traditional for the ritual, and her palm already itched in anticipation of the blade. Damien stood at the edge of the clearing with the pack gathered behind him. 63 wolves, all watching Emma with expressions ranging from hope to fear to resignation. "It's time," Damien said, his voice carrying across the clearing. He moved toward Emma, and she could see the tension in every line of his body. "Last chance to change your mind. Once the moon rises, there's no stopping this." I'm not changing my mind. Emma reached for his hands. Damien, I need you to listen to me. Whatever happens in there, whatever the curse makes you do, it's not your fault. You're not a monster. You're not what the curse made you. You're the man who protected a stranger, who carries the weight of an entire pack, who cries for the people he couldn't save. That's who you are. If Emma's courage to face a cursed wolf with nothing but belief and a silver blade doesn't make you believe in the power of choice, then you've never understood what it means to be truly brave. Subscribe and witness whether love and free will are enough to break a curse forged in blood and grief, because this is where everything changes. Damien pulled her against him, his arms wrapping around her with desperate strength. If this works, he whispered against her hair, if we survive this, I'm never letting you go. You understand that? You're mine, Emma Carter, completely and forever mine. Promise? Emma's voice shook. Promise. He kissed her then, deep and claiming and full of everything he couldn't say, all the fear and hope and love that had grown impossibly fast between them. When he pulled back, his eyes were already starting to glow brighter. I love you. I need you to know that. I love you, and you're the best thing that's ever happened to me. I love you too, Emma whispered. Now go, before I lose my nerve. Damien stepped back as the first rays of moonlight broke through the trees. His body convulsed, bones cracking and reforming, and Emma forced herself to watch as the man she loved became the monster the curse had made him. The transformation was violent and wrong, nothing like the controlled shift she'd seen before. This wolf was bigger, more savage, with those crimson eyes blazing with mindless rage. The cursed wolf's gaze locked onto Emma, and she saw no recognition there, no humanity, just hunger and violence and the need to destroy. It snarled, lips pulling back from massive fangs, and took a step toward the circle. Now, Emma, Sienna called from outside the circle. Start the ritual now. Emma stepped into the center of the binding circle, feeling the magic activate around her, like electricity on her skin. She picked up the silver blade with trembling hands and held it over her left palm. The cursed wolf was circling the circle now, testing the boundaries, and Emma could see it wouldn't hold long. By blood freely given and choice freely made, Emma began, her voice shaking but clear. I stand before the cursed one and offer myself willingly. She drew the blade across her palm, gasping at the sharp pain. Blood welled up, dripping onto the ground, and the circle flared with bright white light. The cursed wolf roared, throwing itself against the barrier. The circle held, but Emma could see cracks forming in the light. I know the cost of failure, Emma continued, forcing herself to keep going, even as the wolf's claws raked against the barrier, inches from her face. I know death waits if my heart proves false, but I stand here anyway, freely choosing, because you are worth saving, Damien Blackwood. The curse does not define you. The monster is not who you are. The circle shattered. The cursed wolf lunged, and Emma had 1 second to wonder if she'd been wrong about everything before those massive jaws closed around her throat. She waited for the pain, for the tearing, for death, but it didn't come. The wolf's fangs pressed against her skin, but didn't break it, and Emma felt something warm spreading through her chest, the mate bond blazing to life with such intensity it stole her breath. You're mine, she whispered, blood from her cut palm dripping onto the wolf's fur. And I choose you. I choose you freely, completely, knowing everything you are. The alpha, the cursed, the broken, the beautiful. I chose all of it. I choose you. The wolf's eyes met hers, and Emma saw the exact moment the curse broke. The mindless rage flickered, disappeared, replaced by dawning awareness and horror. The wolf released her throat, stumbling backward, and Emma watched as it transformed again, this time smoothly, naturally, until Damien knelt in the grass before her, fully human, his eyes their normal amber gold instead of cursed crimson. "Emma," he choked out, reaching for her with shaking hands. You're alive. The curse, it's gone. I can feel it. It's gone." Emma collapsed into his arms, and around them, the pack erupted in howls of celebration and relief. Sienna was crying, actually crying, and even the warriors who'd looked at Emma with suspicion were cheering. "Told you," Emma managed, laughing and crying at the same time. "Told you I was the one." "You're insane," Damien said, checking her throat frantically for wounds that weren't there. "Absolutely insane and perfect and mine." He kissed her, desperate and reverent. "My mate, my Luna, my Emma." "Your Emma," she agreed. "Forever, apparently. Hope you're ready for that. I've been ready since the moment I saw you bleeding in my forest." Damien pulled back just enough to look at her, and Emma saw everything she needed in his eyes, love and wonder and absolute devotion. "Thank you for choosing me, for being brave enough to see past the monster." "There was never a monster," Emma said firmly. "Just a good man trapped in a curse. And now you're free." 3 months later, Emma stood in the same clearing, but this time there was no binding circle, no curse, no threat of death, just pack members gathered for a celebration, and Damien was at her side, his hand firmly clasped in hers. "Luna Emma," Sienna called out, raising a glass. "The human who broke a curse, saved a pack, and gave us back our alpha. To the bravest, most stubborn woman I've ever met." "To Luna Emma," the pack chorused, and Emma felt tears sting her eyes. "Thank you," she managed, "all of you, for accepting me, for trusting me, for becoming my family." "You saved us," one of the warriors said. "Your pack now, family forever." Later, after the celebration died down and the pack had dispersed, Emma and Damien walked through the forest together, their fingers interlaced, the mate bond humming contentedly between them. "Do you ever regret it?" Damien asked quietly. "Giving up your old life? Everything you knew?" "Not even once," Emma said honestly. "That life was half-lived, Damien. I was going through motions, invisible and insignificant. But here, with you, with the pack, I matter. I'm seen. I'm valued. I'm home." "You were always valuable," Damien corrected, pulling her close. "You just needed someone to help you see it. We helped each other," Emma said. "That's what mates do, right?" "Right." Damien kissed her forehead. "I love you, Emma Carter Blackwood." "I love you too," Emma whispered. "My cursed alpha who isn't cursed anymore. Thanks to you." He smiled, genuine and free and beautiful. "Thanks to the human girl who was brave enough to choose a monster." "There was never a monster," Emma repeated. "Just a man worth saving, and a love worth dying for." "But you didn't die," Damien pointed out. "No," Emma agreed, tilting her face up for a kiss. "I lived. We both did. And that's the best kind of magic there is. If Emma and Damien's story taught you anything, let it be this. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is choose to see the good in someone the world has labeled a monster. Sometimes love isn't about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone worth fighting for." Drop a comment telling us about a time you took a leap of faith that changed everything. And subscribe, because every story about choosing courage over fear deserves an audience that believes in second chances and the power of seeing people for who they truly are, not what they've been cursed to become. Emma Carter walked into those woods invisible and walked out as Luna. What will you walk out as when you finally choose to be seen?